It's scary introducing a new character that's going to be scrutinized by everybody. And even though it's a traditionally cut scene and it's like really cool set, and she's got some, nice little intro on the toilet, it's just nerve wracking.
Once you kind of like get into the swing of it, you're kind of like going with it. A lot of it is approaching it. I like sort of overthink it, and then like once I get the footage, it's like, okay, I can just kind of sit down, take the scene as it comes.
I don't know a single editor who isn't nervous about showing people their work.
I
Yeah, yeah.
am still nervous every day. I always think I'm going to get fired. Doesn't matter how good the last one went. When you stop being nervous, that's when it's probably time to stop doing what you're doing. Find something else to do.
Hi, I'm Gordon Burkell from Filmmaker U. At Filmmaker U, we create courses for film professionals to deepen and diversify your existing skill set. You can learn more at filmmakeru.com, or of course follow us on Instagram at filmmaker_u. Every week we interview a film professional to discuss their work, and this week I'm joined by Scott Stolzar, David Kaldor, and Ian Kezsbom, the editors behind The Boys. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
having us.
I guess I want to talk because season 4 is out now. You guys are currently working on season 5. And I'm wondering, like, season 4's opener, David and Scott, you worked on that, or like the opening episode. And I would love to find out who cut the cold open.
Scott and I work really closely. I think on that one I was doing more cutting than he was, but
Yeah, I was just assisting on that one.
Okay, because there was a lot of, like, that was a large cold open. I think it's like around 15 minutes. And what's fascinating is all the little elements that sort of occur in the cold open. So I'm wondering if like um, you know when you were tackling this scenes like where Homelander sort of confronts Victoria, right? He does this sort of talking to her normally, then all of a sudden talking to her sort of evilly, and then he's like presenting for the cameras and talking to her. And so there's this constant sort of shift in his character. And I'm wondering what the footage was like and how did you guys go about crafting that?
Phil Segretia directed it, and he's always great. He always gives us everything that we need. Um, Somebody told me that they cut Meryl Streep, and they said everything that she does is different, but it's all great. And I
Mhm.
feel like Ant is the same exact way. Like he gives you so many different little options, and he's always willing to try things. And he's just a brilliant, brilliant actor. So I feel like my job was to just not drop the ball on that. I mean, uh, yeah, and then we can go in after the fact and kind of like shade it one way or another to make him seem more menacing, less menacing. Uh, how uncomfortable do you want to spend? How much time do you want to spend on uncomfortable Newman? How much time do you want to try to do the crowd stuff? Extras are always hard, I think, when you have a big group of extras and try to get them to all kind of like hush when he comes in the room. But I think we pulled it off.
I grew up in a household in the projects in East Harlem. There's a program at WNET, the public television station, to get more people of color behind the camera, in the editing room, doing sound, writing scripts. When they put me in a dark room and they showed me how to use the splicer and the rewinds, I felt this big sigh of relief, this sense of, wow, I found my space. The editing part of filmmaking is the real nuts and bolts of what makes films come to life. You can ask Spielberg, you can ask Tarantino, you can ask Spike. When you sit here, this is where the proof is in the pudding. I'm Sam Pollard, and this is my class on documentary editing.
And what was in that sort of opening scene too? There's Kimiko falls and smashes her face. And for a show that's very like, we're just gonna go over the top on everything. This is like the one time I've seen you guys not show us something. So I'm wondering what the decision was behind that. Was that like it was just shot that way or what happened?
I think that was always the plan. And I don't know what we didn't spend a lot of time discussing going back and forth on that one, but it I like it. I mean, I am a fan of kind of letting not filling in seeing every single thing personally.
Well, speaking of that, like Ian, you worked on I don't know, I can't remember the name of the episode, but it's the crazy animal farm one where like everything's insane and there's a lot happening there.
Yes.
Um, so I'm wondering how you tackled sort of because you're jumping to other scenes, but I'm wondering how you tackled sort of keeping all the information there, keeping us oriented and informed with all this chaos.
Well, I mean, a lot of it starts from the script, right? Because it was such a well-written script that it was kind of easy. I had a guide that I was already following going from that standpoint. But there was still a lot of new intercutting we did once we got in with Eric and kind of figuring out what's the best way to keep things kind of sane. And because there were so many little pieces that kind of filled out a hole, we had a lot of options there where we could go or not go. So in the end, it wasn't too bad. We basically looked at it as one whole story that wasn't intercutting, and we looked at the dad side, with Yui as one whole story, and kind of just figured out where were the best places to come in and out once we were there.
Now, I've also heard that this season was very much talking about Trump and the alt-right in the States. What were the discussions like in the cutting room about that?
I
I
don't
don't
think
think
we really had any discussions about it. I feel like it was there on the page, and if you made that connection, then you made that connection. It wasn't there was no like, oh hey, let's try to copy this or do that. I don't we didn't really draw that much inspiration from real life stuff. We tried to keep it as grounded and as, just what the writers gave us to start with.
Yeah, I don't recall ever having a conversation about that. I mean, I think it's, we all understand that The Boys is kind of a reflection on the real world in more ways than just that. Like that's what we're aiming for, but there was nothing specific in that regard.
What would you say in this season, what would you say it was one of your more challenging, and I'll sort of open this up to all three of you, but like one of your more challenging scenes to edit that you're really proud of the outcome?
For me, and David actually helped me a little bit on this one too, was the bat mitzvah fight scene, because it was shot in such a I think it was shot over 5 days in a really like just getting tons of footage every day, and there
Mhm.
was so much going on, and uh because people, the winters in Canada, actors kept getting sick, so stuff was being pushed and moved around, and when we finally shot that, um we were kind of under a tight deadline, and I was also planning my own child's bat mitzvah at the same time, like literally as I was cutting it. So it was, I when I finished it, I decided nothing bad could happen at mine. That's quite at
Yeah.
this level. So
I think in 401, I helped cut some of the riot stuff, which I think riot stuff like Kaldor was talking about, like with extras especially, it can be like really tough to kind of make it feel real. And I think between like the footage that Phil got and like we were able to actually make it feel like a real riot and not too distracting and like kind of understand all the story beats as well. Um, so yeah, I think that, and then I mean, I guess just for me, because it was my first time getting the co-edit, just working on all of four was just a big thing for me, kind of in my career and in my life. So it was just a big occasion, I guess.
In 401, introducing Sister Sage, I was very, very nervous about that. I think that's like, it's not, you've got Ant, and I think there's certain actors who you go, well, okay, well, I know I'm not gonna have a long day today because I've got his footage. It's it's a Homelander scene, so it's gonna be good. But just it's scary introducing a new character that's gonna be scrutinized by everybody. And even though it's a traditionally cut scene and it's like really cool set, and she's got some, nice little intro on the toilet. It's just nerve-wracking, I guess.
Do you find that they like people are like when you guys have introduced new characters or suits or what have you, that people have actually like given blowback? Because I feel like it's based on the comics. It wouldn't, you know.
I guess blowback maybe not necessarily for fans, a little bit for fans. I think just introducing a new character, uh, how are they going to feel about this? Let's give this person like if you're doing a series, you want the pilot to like really kick. You do not want to have like you can't like go, oh, well, if you get past the pilot, it's pretty good. Like people just don't have the patience or the time. And I think uh just everybody's scrutinizing it from Eric is going to be like really concerned about that scene. Phil's going to be concerned about that scene. The studio is going to be concerned about that scene. There's just going to be, and it was pretty smooth sailing, I think, because Phil did a great job on it. So, everybody was happy with it from the get go. I think we all kind of breathed a sigh of relief, for every set of people that it passed through and they gave their approval.
Scott, you said this was your first co-edit
Yeah.
in the series. So, we have a lot of young editors watching this. So I'm wondering, how do you get over the nerves? Because I'm sure that's pretty, I don't want to say stressful, but, you're taking on a lot more and it's, you want to make a good impression. And what advice would you give them?
I mean, I was very fortunate that like Kaldor, who had been assisting since season 3, like you've always kind of like let me pitch ideas and like let me take a stab at scenes and stuff. So it just like, kind of grew out of that. So, I think nerves for me, it's a lot of, strongly recommend therapy. Always a good thing. But yeah, I think like to a degree, like there's always like someone like me, I'm always gonna have some nerves, but I think it's like once you kind of like get into the swing of it, you're kind of like going with it. And I think a lot of it is the sort of approaching it. I like sort of overthink it, and then like once I get the footage, it's like okay, I can just kind of sit down and like just take the scene as it comes, basically.
The therapist must be like, so what are you working on? You're like, oh yeah, the scene where they bash people's heads in with baseball bats and place them into the riot scene.
Yeah.
Nothing stressful.
Yeah, no.
I mean, I'll just add to that. I
Yeah.
am still nervous every day. I always think I'm going to get fired. It doesn't matter how good the last one went. And I think that's a good thing. I think when you stop being nervous, that's when it's probably time to stop doing what you're doing, find something else to do.
I don't know a single editor who isn't nervous about showing people their work.
Well, showing the work is, I guess, one of the most stressful because you could just feel it in the room, right? Have you found with, like during COVID and what have you, we went a lot to screens and now a lot of times people will just watch at home and then give notes and what have you. Have you guys still gotten chances to get everyone into the room to watch it, or is it more just here's the notes?
We always get notes on paper first, and then
Mhm.
once we've had a chance to look at those, we'll get in the room with Eric and actually sit and talk for a few hours, and then we'll go back and do notes, and we'll come back a week later and do it again. So we're primarily from home, but we'll
Mhm.
come in once a week or every other week to kind of have a sit down and do it in person.
What's your relationship with the visual effects editor? Like how do you, because there's so much effects in this and you want to work hand in hand with them. So like, what's that process like for you guys?
It's probably different for each editor. I mean, I know some shows, or I've heard of shows where they'll like just say, "Oh, it's a big VFX scene," and just hand it off to the VFX editor. That's not really something I'm super comfortable with. So just I do my own assembly. I look at everything on my own. If there's temp effects that I can do, I will do them. If there's something that gets kicked back because I didn't do a good enough job, or if I feel like it's just out of reach for me, I will kick it to the VFX editor. We definitely are, as soon as the dailies come in, hey, is there something that VFX knows, do not use this, we screwed up, they went off of the blue screen and that's going to be a real problem, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, I think in overall it's a Gabe, who is our post producer, kind of has a trust with everybody that like they'll take care of it, and he doesn't feel the need to like step in and be micromanaging and saying, oh, VFX needs this. I certainly have been on shows where that's been uh, the case, and he kind of he trusts us that we know what we're doing, and we've been doing this for a long time. So,
and I think just from the dailies as well, like we get the like VFX like set reports and everything like that. So we're trying to like when I'm prepping dailies, I'll try to make sure like if there's any notes to like put them in the clip or put them someplace so that it's clear like this is the circle take, this is like just like a reference take, don't use it. And you know, for 408 with the all the shifter stuff, the motion control, it's like making sure like the selects all lined up and that was all properly syncing, so that like you could literally like I think I made like one like super group that you could basically just everything was lined up so that you could just toggle between all the different plates, and yeah, really just communicating with the VFX editors to make sure like if we're trying something or if Eric wants something that it's like that it's doable. Although usually our VFX team is really good and they'll usually find a way to do it, especially if Eric wants it.
Yeah, there are plenty of times that, you know, they've told us not to use a shot and, you know, that was a shot that ends up being used and they make it work. But yeah, I mean, as far as the VFX editors go, you know, we're always talking to them. You know, some people like David will do a lot of his own temp effects. I like to assemble it the way I like it, and then I'll hand it off to VFX editor, and I basically just text him, "Can you make this look good for me?" You know, you know, and we'll go that route. But for the bigger stuff like the sheep stuff or the all the multiple you know characters, splinter characters in the bat mitzvah, like a lot of those I'm working a lot closer with him because they're very specific shots that they've set up in a very specific way that we kind of have to follow a pattern in order to make it work because they're that complex.
Probably one of the smartest things I've ever done for my career. It gave me all the tools that I needed to be able to jump into a new career.
Getting myself into a mindset, thinking like an editor, and being around people that I can talk to on that level was really invaluable to me.
A lot of the things that I learned from that class, I still think about.
I loved the classroom. I loved the computer stations. We built a sense of community.
And it also instills a lot of confidence in you to take that and go out into the world.
After I took the class, I felt very prepared to take the next step.
I owe Manhattan Workshop the career that I have right now. Things have been going great, and I really have the Manhattan Workshop to thank for that.
Do you find it difficult to tackle pacing when you might just have sort of a stand-in or like something very, you might not have the content in the scene or the shot that you need?
You mean while I'm doing the assembly?
Yeah, while you're building the assembly.
Sometimes it can be tough. It's I mean, not from season 4, but from season 3, I was working on the animated sequence where Noir's watching an animated movie, and that was, I had nothing. We just had stills of characters, right, to work with. But generally, most of the stuff like the sheep stuff, there was enough there that I could kind of like we'll adjust it when the effects come in, but we get pretty close prior to those effects being done. So that way they're kind of focused on a very specific thing that they're working on.
Now, they're working on season 5 right now, or they're in the process. And I've noticed every season they seem to up the insanity of the effects and like the craziness of things. how do you think, and you don't have to give me specifics, but I'm wondering, like, are they going to be able to up it? Because they keep getting crazier and crazier with the things they do.
I don't want to spoil it, but there's definitely
Crazy.
gonna be gianter penises. I'm kidding. I don't we can't spoil it because we haven't seen anything yet. We
Yeah.
haven't seen a script yet, and so even if I did have loose lips, I couldn't tell you anything.
Yeah, and I think that they did like such a good job of really changing the world at the end of season 4. So I'm just like I'm so excited to see what the sort of like new world order really looks like. But yeah, they'll knock it out of the park, I'm sure.
So I have one last question for you guys. What would you say is your favorite guilty pleasure film or TV show to watch?
I love the How Did This Get Made podcast, so I watch a lot of like movies. Miami Connection is one that I like. I just love that one. We were able to like go to the live show, so that one always holds like
Yeah.
holds.
I love that podcast too. So
But yeah, I'll watch almost any bad movie.
I had the pleasure of cutting all those guys, the How Does This Make guys on the League, which was my first editing job. So I
Yeah.
love it. So I don't know how guilty this is, but because it's definitely a cult movie, but my comfort movie when I just can't, the movie I'll never reject turning off is Tremors.
oh, it's a great movie.
Oh, yeah, I know. So I don't know if that counts as a guilty pleasure because it's awesome. I think a more recent guilty pleasure is McGee's The Babysitter, which I love horror comedy, and that's like so ridiculous and over the top.
We need more of it. Like you don't see it that often nowadays.
I'm a big like Evil Dead kind of Ash
Yeah.
vs. Evil Dead fan. I like that type. And The Babysitter is just so ridiculous, like in such a fun way.
I watched The Gentleman, which I really enjoyed on Netflix. I don't know if that's considered guilty pleasure, but Dane, our former VFX editor, who's now I think he's going to be coming back onto Gen V possibly, but he used to watch Judge Judy, and I used to always chastise him about that and say, never tell anybody in the industry that you watch Judge Judy. So I just thought that's the first thing that came to mind when you asked about guilty pleasures. Not mine, but I wasn't afraid to berate somebody for their own.
Well, thank you so much for letting me interview you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
And that's our show for this week, everyone. Check us out at filmmakeru.com, or of course on Instagram at filmmaker_u. I'm Gordon Burkell. Thanks for watching.